Hi, my name is Pastor Hal York, and welcome to Truth in the Trenches. Today we're going to be in Proverbs chapter 24, verse 7, where we read, "Wisdom is too exalted for an ignorant fool. He does not open his mouth at the gate." It's a simple verse, but there's two important truths I think we can find in these verses. One kind of flows from the other. As we know, wisdom is the subject of the book of Proverbs. It begins, as chapter 1, verse 7 says, with the desire to live life in the fear of God. It's where it all begins. That wisdom is understanding the consequences of actions, where they lead, the outcome of what we do, and especially as it leads to where it leads down the future. And this verse states, not surprisingly, that wisdom is too exalted or high for a fool. Wisdom is above this guy's pay grade. It's out of his reach. When a foolish person is around wise people, he's like a bull in a china shop. He's out of his league, and everybody knows it, except the fool. The fool is wise in his own eyes. He thinks he's the smartest one in the room. He won't listen. He just delights in spouting off with his mouth what he thinks he knows. And he literally makes a fool out of himself, or he reveals the fool that he is. He's kind of like a guy at a medical convention sitting around a table filled with doctors carrying on like he knows something about medicine. He just keeps talking and talking and talking because he read a book once. And he never asks them questions about anything. It's ludicrous. Yet that's how fools are, and we've all seen them in action. Sometimes if we've seen them, we almost get embarrassed for them. We want to throw a blanket over them. You sort of want to ask them, do you know whose company you're in? Do you know who these people are you're sitting with? The fool will probably say yes, but he's oblivious to the rolled eyes and the smirks and the head shakes that the doctors are giving him. Wisdom is too high for a fool. He can't stop talking, and therefore he can't reach the conclusion that a wise person would reach in a similar situation, which would be to be quiet, to listen to what these learned men and women talk about when it comes to medicine. He might learn something. Wisdom is too high for the fool because wisdom begins with the fear of God. And the fear of God begins with humility, and the fool has neither. So it's unattainable for him. But that's not the only application. The rest of the verse drives home a very important principle as well, one that affects us all from time to time, probably more often than we care to admit. It says, "He does not open his mouth in the gate." He does not can be translated must not or should not. Two words the fool does not understand or have any intention of listening to. But the point is this. In the gate is where public policy is made in those days. Disputes were settled, governors sat there, judges sat there. They were places of power and prominence, is where the issues of life were debated, where people came with their problems to find help, and so on. The point being that the fool must not be allowed to shape public opinion or policy or settle disputes. This is no place for a fool. The fool has no concept of God or creation order and principles. He doesn't understand how life works. He's not easily corrected. He has never attained the maturity to speak well, to be able to reason in his mind. And to give such a person authority, or to put such a person in power or in a place of counsel or advice, is a travesty that brings great heartache to those he leads. He cannot be constructive, fair, objective, wise, or reasonable, and just when it comes to matters affecting the community which are pondered and debated in the gate. If he has any wisdom, any humility, he would keep his mouth shut and realize he's totally out of his element, and he would be quiet. You remember what Proverbs 17:28 says, "Even an ignorant fool, when he keeps silent, is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he's considered understanding." But he does not be quiet and will not be quiet, and lives are affected. Poor decisions are reached, policies are enacted which are not helpful but will ultimately harm society and the people that they rule over. It would be easy to comment on current policies at this point, but a casual look around and a quick read of the current headlines and policies being enacted makes such comments redundant. But the lesson for us all is this: we need to be wise. We need to learn to listen. We need to understand our lack of knowledge and understanding at times, and when we are with people, be careful with the advice and counsel we give people when it's not in an area we are truly familiar with. It's not a sin to say, "I don't know." It's not a sin to listen. Lives can be hurt, and families can be hurt. Churches can be damaged when people give advice about things they know nothing about, which the fool is prone to do. When you're in over your head, it's not a sin to admit that. It's a good idea when we are, to learn to be silent, to ask questions, not give advice. Silence truly is golden, and it can really make us appear much smarter than we really are. And that's a good thing for me anyway. But most importantly, when we do that, no one gets hurt. Decisions are not made which will be based on inadequate information and harm people and hurt people. And so it's a good thing to remember as we live with people and work with people and try to help people. When we're in over our head, be careful about the advice we give. The fool will never heed to this advice. He loves to hear the sound of his own voice. But the wise person is more concerned about helping, in what he says, helping other people, than he is just hearing his own voice. So sometimes we just have to be quiet and we not open our mouth in the gate, because sometimes there's too many people already talking who don't know what they're talking about, as we know full well. But anyway, may this truth guide us and guard us in the trenches of life as we seek to live for the glory of God and the good of others. May God bless.